On July 19, 2005, an article was uploaded to Wikipedia concerning a scientific discovery made in the mid-90s. It was removed 12 minutes later, and all traces of it were wiped from Wikipedia servers soon after. Only a part of the article remains, and it is unknown if the missing parts will ever see the light of day again. The specific discovery is untraceable anywhere else, and the snippet that was taken from the initial article is the only evidence of its entire existence. Wikipedia has consistently denied the article's existence in spite of the archive since they were first asked about it around 2008. The full archive is found right below this text. Object in Stagnation Consciousness, OSC, is a phenomenon discovered by doctors David Astley and Julia Ninkovich at a Roman Phillips University campus at Brunk, Pennsylvania. It concerns how everyday objects will show signs of brain activity when left motionless and completely alone for an extended period of time that will cease if looked or disturbed upon by a foreign force. In some cases, if a specific object were to be left alone long enough, it will start to show abnormal physical and qualitative effects. These effects are sometimes unable to be ceased. During an experiment on December 19, 1994, concerning how different people differentiate between tastes when blind juxtaposed to when they can see, a participant noted that during a blind test, she felt something was looking at her right in front of her. After a couple impromptu trials with subjects from the previous experiment created the same results, although the feeling occurred at different intervals, Astley and Ninkovich set up a small experiment where they fitted electronic equipment designed to measure brain waves to a Granny Smith apple. After approximately 4 minutes and 27 seconds, the apple displayed minute electronic waves that steadily increased until they resembled those of a newborn grey rat at approximately 11 minutes and 19 seconds. As soon as Ninkovich looked at the apple directly, the waves stopped. The experiment was replicated multiple times from February 1995 to August that same year, using different objects ranging from a baseball cap to a Rubik's Cube to an empty water bottle. They all displayed small electrical waves that gradually grew in strength, along with a similar disappearance as soon as someone directly looked at the object. A notable experiment involved an uncooked rack of pork ribs displaying waves reminiscent of a 4-month-old human child at its peak. When cooked, no waves were measured when left alone for the same amount of time as the uncooked steak. More experiments were conducted on October 4, 1995, now using plants and a wired microphone in the testing room, a windowless soundproof chamber with a small table in the center. A small cherry tree, oak sapling, and miniature pumpkin were each individually tested and reached their peak electrical signals at around 35 minutes and 16 seconds, each displaying waves similar to an adult dog. Each was left alone for 9 full hours and achieved dramatically different results. The oak sapling's waves faltered over time, and when the 9 hours were up, the waves were measured at approximately 86% less strength than the peak measurement. The microphone rigs picked up nothing of note, and the sapling was returned to where it was originally planted, although its further growth was measured by the professors. The sapling's further growth was measured to be about 8% faster than other samples of its genus. Whether the testing enhanced its growing ability, or if it was just more favorable genetics, is unclear. The cherry tree's waves plateaued and, when inspected, seemingly had stiffer, firmer branches than before. The microphone rigged in the test chamber had not picked up any sound besides the tree's branches rustling despite the absence of wind in the room. Interestingly, when the cherries from the tested plant were eaten afterwards by an unnamed subject, they remarked they were the best cherries they had ever eaten. This was followed by them falling dangerously ill and nearly becoming brain dead. Fortunately, this outcome was avoided and they made a full recovery, although the subject sued Roman Phillips University and the 2 doctors afterwards for reckless endangerment. All parties achieved an undisclosed settlement on November 27, 1996. The pumpkin's waves also stayed steady, although the microphone picked up small disturbances. Around 4 hours into the experiment, small murmuring was heard, which turned into unintelligible grumbles at around the 6th hour mark. At the 8th hour mark, a sound consistent with the noise a rolling pumpkin makes was heard, followed by a thump and a loud screech. When the scientists finished the experiment, they found the pumpkin laying on the ground next to the table with a black and purple bruise where it had landed from its fall. According to Astley's journal, which was confiscated by the FBI after a later incident, he had taken the pumpkin to his home to carve as a Halloween decoration. As he was cutting into the pumpkin to remove its insides, he kept hearing this quiet whine coming from somewhere in his hands. The pumpkin was promptly thrown away, and the experiments at the college were discontinued. 7 years later, in early 2002, Dr. Ninkovich sought to continue the experiments. Unsatisfied by the early end to what could become a groundbreaking discovery, she started setting up a project, first using her own funds, then money from local investors, before securing a large sum from an interested Chinese company that had heard about her work. Using the newfound money, she bought the test chamber and most of the old equipment used in the experiments at Roman Phillips University. She then secured a cadaver through questionable legality and rushed to complete the first experiment, measuring the cadaver's brainwaves and leaving it alone for an entire 24 hours. Small blips of waves were measured in the first 8 hours before they spiked to full human waves at hour 19, and the cadaver arose, breaking down the door to the test chamber and then whisk. There is no record of any David Astley, Julia Ninkovich, or Roman Phillips University on any registry of doctors nor university professionals, let alone universities in the case of RPU for that matter. It is unknown why the article was taken down so quickly, or why nobody mentioned in the article is shown to have existed. The only obvious and clear thing is that whoever took it down wanted a full, thorough job. And if they wanted it so squeaky shiny clean, there has to be some truth to this. There is a reason dead bodies are either buried or cremated, after all.